The small restaurant sat quietly on a busy street corner, its warm lights glowing softly through the windows. Inside, the air smelled of fresh bread and spices. The place was cozy, with wooden tables and soft music playing in the background. It was the kind of spot where people came to escape the rush outside and find a little peace over a meal. At one of the corner tables sat a couple, a man and a woman. They were different in skin color, but their smiles matched, soft and genuine. The woman reached over and gently touched the man's hand, and he squeezed hers back. They were quiet but happy, sharing small bites and whispered laughs. It was a simple moment, but it held a kind of comfort. They looked like they belonged there, like this was a place where they could just be themselves, but not everyone saw it that way. From time to time, glances flicked their way, some curious, some cautious, and a few colder than the rest, eyes that didn't quite know how to look without judging. The room felt calm, but underneath, something fragile stirred, as if the peace might break at any moment. The narrator's voice watches carefully, sensing the quiet before a storm. This was a night that would change more than just one table's story. Not far from the couple, at another table, a man had been watching them for a while. At first it was just a glance here and there, but soon his stare grew sharper, colder. His eyes didn't blink, and his lips pressed tight as if he was holding back words that were already burning inside. Without warning, the man stood up, his chair scraped loudly against the floor, breaking the soft hum of the restaurant. He pointed a finger at the couple and shouted, "You don't belong here. This is not your place, you need to leave." His voice was harsh and full of anger, and the words he used were cruel, words that no one should have to hear, especially not in a place meant for sharing a meal and peace. The restaurant fell silent, the music seeming to vanish as all eyes turned toward the confrontation. The couple froze, the woman's hand tightened around the man's, their eyes wide with shock and hurt, but they didn't shout back or rise to the man's challenge. They stayed seated, trying to keep calm, not wanting to make things worse. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. Whispers began to ripple through the tables. Some people looked down at their plates, uncomfortable and unsure. Others glanced at their phones or at the door, wondering if someone would step forward. The tension was thick enough to cut. The couple's pain was quiet but deep. It was the pain of being seen as different, of having their love questioned in a place where they only wanted to be accepted. Their dignity was still strong, even though fear flickered behind their eyes. The question hung in the air, louder than the man's voice: who would stand up for them? Would anyone find the courage to break the silence? The man didn't stop. His voice grew louder, sharper, like he was trying to drown out the quiet discomfort filling the room. "You think you can just sit here, in this neighborhood, not in my restaurant, not on my watch." His anger seemed to feed off the silence around him, making him bolder. People's eyes flicked nervously between the man and the couple. The air felt tighter with every word. Then, just as the tension seemed about to burst, the restaurant's front door swung open. The small bell above it jingled softly, breaking through the heavy silence. A woman stepped inside. She was calm, almost serene, but her presence filled the room like a sudden breeze. There was no hurry in her steps, no anger in her face, just a steady, quiet strength that made everyone stop and look. She was younger than anyone might have expected, not the kind of owner the man had imagined, or the customers had pictured. She had soft eyes that held a quiet fire, and her voice, when she spoke, was clear and firm without needing to shout. Without hesitation, she walked straight to the man who was still yelling. The crowd watched, breath held, waiting. The tension was so thick it felt like it could snap. What would she do? Would she back the man, let him drive the couple away, or would she stand with the people everyone had been watching silently for so long? The room waited for her next move. The moment hung, heavy with possibility. The woman stopped just a few feet away from the angry man. She looked him in the eye, her voice steady and calm as she said, "You need to leave." Now her words didn't shout or demand. They carried a quiet power that made the man falter for a moment. He opened his mouth, ready to argue, to shout back, but she held up her hand before he could speak again. "You don't get to decide who belongs here," she continued. This is my restaurant. These people, she nodded toward the couple, are my family. A sharp silence fell over the room. The man blinked, confusion and anger mixing on his face. Family? He spat, his voice losing some of its strength. Yes, the owner said. I'm part of this family, and we don't stand for hate here. My parents taught me that love and respect are what build a community, not fear or ignorance. The man's fists clenched, but he was no longer the loud, confident aggressor. The room seemed to hold its breath as the owner's words sank in. Slowly, other customers began to shift. Some stood up, nodding or murmuring in agreement. A few spoke quietly to one another, voices growing stronger with support. The owner's courage gave them courage too. The man glared around, seeing the growing circle of support for the couple and the owner. His face twisted in frustration and defeat. Without another word, he stormed out, the door slamming behind him. A wave of relief swept through the restaurant. People's shoulders relaxed, and whispers of encouragement filled the air. The couple looked at the owner with tears in their eyes, tears of gratitude, relief and something deeper. Smiles broke through the tension, fragile but real. The owner took a breath and shared something quiet but powerful. I've faced this kind of hate before, she said softly. Growing up, people told my family we didn't belong, just because we looked different. But my parents always said, stand tall, love fiercely, and never let hate win. Tonight, that's what we did. Her words hung in the air like a promise. A reminder that love and courage can shine through the darkest moments. The tension slowly faded from the restaurant, replaced by a gentle warmth. The soft music returned to its place, and the quiet hum of conversation began again. Yet, even as the normal sounds filled the air, something had changed. The night had left a mark, not just on the couple or the owner, but on everyone who had been there. The courage of one woman, standing firm against hate, reminded the room of something powerful. Sometimes, it only takes one voice to break the silence. One act of bravery to shift the tide. The couple, once shaken and unsure, now sat closer together, their hands still joined, their eyes brighter with a new strength. They finished their meal slowly, savoring not just the food, but the feeling of being seen and supported. Around them, other customers began to share small stories, quiet, honest whispers about moments when they too had faced unfairness or discrimination. These stories, once hidden behind polite smiles or silent nods, now found space to breathe. The restaurant felt more like a community, connected by the shared understanding that love and respect mattered most. The owner moved through the room, checking in with her guests, reminding everyone that this place was about more than just business. It was about standing up for one another, about creating a space where people could belong, no matter their color, their background, or who they loved. As the night went on, the narrator's voice reflects on how change often starts with small acts, a single stand against hate, a quiet moment of kindness. The world might sometimes feel heavy with darkness, but love always finds a way to shine through. In the end, the story wasn't just about one hateful man or one brave owner. It was about the strength in community, the power of courage, and the hope that tomorrow can be better. In moments like these, empathy and respect become more than just words, they become acts of courage. Standing up for others, especially when it feels hard or scary, is what helps build a kinder world. Love, in all its beautiful forms, deserves to be seen, celebrated, and protected. This story reminds us that hate can try to divide, but it will never win when people choose bravery and kindness instead. Every small act of standing up, every quiet voice speaking out, adds up to something powerful. The world may have its shadows, but it's in the light of our courage and compassion that we find hope. So let's hold on to that hope, and keep shining, because kindness and bravery will always shine brighter.